So I served in the Australian Army and I joined in 2009, and I was part of the artillery corps, so Royal Australian Artillery, and I served majority of my time at 16 Airland Regiment, which is up in Woodside, South Australia, and joined in 2009, discharged in 2016. I decided to join when I was younger. It sounds kind of cliche, but I decided to join because I wanted to help people. Yeah, so I medically discharged in 2016. I discharged because of my back. I had a number of spinal surgeries on my lower back, which meant that I wasn't able to, I guess, meet the criteria that you need to be able to remain within the military, the physical criteria. It had happened over a number of years for me. It wasn't a singular incident. So I've got 2 titanium kind of brackets that kind of sit in the bottom of my spine now that keep everything together. And by the time I actually got to that, I'd done a lot of damage to the nerves throughout my hips and legs, and so they don't really function the best anymore. And I couldn't really feel my left foot anymore. I couldn't feel most of my left leg, and I had pain pretty much radiating throughout my whole body. Transitioning out of the army or out of the military in general is a pretty hard process on a regular basis. Someone who's transitioning with physical and, for me, mental as well, injuries, like it's really, really hard. So it's a really difficult process, and so I really struggled with it. Like I said, I had a spinal surgery, so I had 2 spinal surgeries, so when I actually discharged, I couldn't really walk properly. I was confined to the house for a few months, and I had a walking stick for quite a while that I had to use and to help me get around and stuff, and had severe depression and severe anxiety, and so I couldn't really leave the house. I couldn't really get out of bed, to be honest. It was a struggle every day to kind of get out of bed. I was later diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, but that wasn't until a couple of years later, and that was probably more reflective of things that have happened in the past and a build-up. But at that period of time, I was heavily medicated on opioids. I spent probably about 4.5 years on really heavy opioids, and I became addicted to them. Rehabilitation was good in a sense for me. So it was really good in that I had a lot of access to through my rehabilitation company that was looking after me at the time, which was Helping Heroes here in South Australia, and then through DVA, I had a lot of access to things like physical rehabilitation. So I was effectively going to the physio like 5-6 times a week, doing different things, whether it's Pilates, whether it's hydrotherapy, whether it's mindfulness, a lot of different things, programs I was doing, running through that physio, and then also I had access to some really good psychiatric help with my psychiatrist, which was again linked through DVA as well. So I definitely had a lot of support for that area, but it was more that, so you go, when you're medically discharged, you go from having a career one day to having nothing the next day. And so that was it was like there was a huge gap in my life, and it became increasingly challenging for me. It didn't really matter how my physical rehabilitation was going. My mental rehabilitation became really, really challenging for me. And it kind of built up to the point in 2017 when I nearly took my own life at that point. And so I guess I had been going through a really challenging period at that time in my life. I was fortunate enough that through a number of different things, both my own mindset and things I learned through my rehabilitation, I was able to, keep myself from doing that and from taking my own life. Yeah, but that then meant, although it was probably one of the most challenging periods in my life, that then meant the next few months became one of the most, proudest periods of my life, because I really got stuck into my rehabilitation then, and both mentally and physically. And I went down the path where I said, I don't ever want to be in that position again. I'm very lucky. My wife is an incredible person. So that's like, I'm very blessed in the fact that when people talk about, the old saying that when I count my blessings, I count you twice. Like that's how good she is. And so she's been a huge support of me the whole entire time. And having someone there that you can, that you can trust in, and that you can actually vent to or get things off your chest to, and be able to Because the biggest issue that veterans have is that we block everything up and we don't talk about things. And we go through a whole entire career where we're taught to push things down and push things to the, because you need to perform at the time, you need to be on your A game. You're trained to put those emotions out of your brain and be able to not deal with those in the correct manner. And so she was really the first person that said to me, you need to go and get help because something isn't right. And I was still in the army at that time, and I was barely being able to get out of bed, and get to work was a struggle, and get through a day was a struggle, and I'd spend nights just hours just crying my eyes out, and sometimes over little things, sometimes over big things, and so she was really that person that pushed me to say, hey, you need to go and get help. And so that was the first stage. But then to then be able to then learn how to actually deal with my emotions and then have someone that I can actually speak to them about, that was the most important thing, is about having a support network there, that someone you can trust, that you can speak to at any time. It doesn't matter what you're saying, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. In terms of different supports that I reach out to, so obviously have my friends and family close to me, although it took me a long time to be able to actually talk to my family about it, about the issues I was going through. I was very lucky that a week after I'd had that moment, or that night, really bad night, a friend of mine who runs the programs down for a company called The Road Home, which is a charity that works, is a part of the Hospital Research Foundation, which is inadvertently who I actually employed by these days, work-wise. But back then, I just knew Mark as someone who was a friend, and he reached out to me and said, "Do you want to try wheelchair basketball?" And then that kind of was the pushing point for me to get out of the house and be able to try things again, and be able to get fit again and feel like I'm a part of a team again. And so that was a huge point for me. And so in terms of, I guess, outside services, the Road Home's been really big for me, but also Helping Heroes is, they were there for me for years, and they were the rehabilitation company that DVA, I guess, gave me when I had discharged from the military. And Craig, who's the manager director there, he's an incredible person, and they were a huge support to me for years. So if DVA hadn't put me in touch with them, I wouldn't have had any of those services. The first challenge you have to overcome is that, especially if you have a physical injury, is that you can't do things that you used to be able to do. And so, I grew up playing football my whole life, and playing football at a high level as well, back in WA. And then I joined the military. I was always fit in the army until I started to have back problems. I can't run anymore. I can't jump, do all those types of things. So I can't really play able-bodied sport anymore. I guess the great thing about that is that there's so many other things in the world that you can do. And so you just have to identify something that you love and identify something that you're passionate about, and then you can go down that path. And it's just as fulfilling. Like I don't need to play football anymore, and I coach football now, so I'm still involved in the game. It's just involved in a different manner. The other big challenge is the mental side of things. And so I suffered really, really badly from anxiety, and almost like a social kind of anxiety. Couldn't really leave the house because I was worried every time I was walking down the street. I feel like people were just staring at me, and they're all really, really bad words that have a huge impact on your life. And when you're repeating those things in your head all the time, like it's really hard to actually be able to function as a normal human being and not be able to get sucked into that vortex of depression and anxiety. And so, a big thing for me was that I had to learn how to deal with my emotions. I had to learn how to be able to restructure the thoughts that was going on in my brain, and be able to say, well, hang on a second, to be able to challenge those thoughts and say, I'm not actually sick. The line I used to tell myself is, this is a now thing, not a forever thing. This is what I'm going through now, and this isn't, but I'm not going to let this, be with me forever. You've just got to put one foot in front of the other, and you've got to be prepared to commit. Sports played a huge part, because, the whole part of being in the military is that you're part of a team, and you're part of a team environment where you feel like you're wanted, you feel like you contribute, and you can rely on those people around you. And team sports, especially for me, has been huge. For me, it was all about team sports, because I was able to be back in that environment of feeling like I can contribute again, like I can be a part of something that's worthwhile and be a part of a team. And so, yeah, team sports has been huge for me, and then getting involved in wheelchair basketball in the local league here. And then now I play in the National League now for a team in Perth called the Red Dust Healers. And then I was able to go and represent Australia for Invictus last year. DVA actually funded a chair for me. Yeah, so, and it's an expensive chair. But they also did a lot of other stuff for me as well. And I know DVA, they have their challenges, and they have had challenges in a lot in the past few years. In the past decade, I'd say they've had a lot of challenges. But I feel like the direction they're going in now is a really good direction. And I certainly can say that, for me and for my family, they helped me out with furniture and with things that I needed to be able to help me get around the house and be able to do things like a special chair that stands me up if I can't get up, because I'm missing a disc in the bottom of my back. They helped me get a really good mattress for my bed. They've got a bunch of other aids that just something simple like a little, like a little handle that I can use to drag myself up because I don't have the ability to do that. And so DVA has been great in that sense to me. Were there challenges going through the process? Probably yes, but I think that's just an administration type of thing rather than like a DVA thing. It's just the fact that it's an administration process and you have to go through that. But I do feel that the direction they're going in now, especially with the online claim forms and stuff like that, it's a real positive shift in mindset. And and they've certainly helped me out quite a bit. So Invictus Games was a really good experience. There were a few moments that really wowed me and really, I guess, gave you tingles and gave you those good feelings. I think the biggest thing for me was actually my dad telling me that he was watching the live footage, and he was just in tears, just watching me come on. And so that was a really big thing for me as well. Having my family there was great as well. My wife was there, my mum was there, and so having them on the sidelines, that was important as well. Yeah. So as a part of my rehabilitation, we mainly got access to the recognised prior learning pathway. And so I was able to use the skills that I had already developed in the army and in the military through my career, and I was able to apply those to be able to gain educational certificates. And DVA funded that process. Through Helping Heroes, they were able to help me get a lot of vocational training and a lot of vocational assessments as well, ergonomic assessments when I actually got a job. DVA got me, they came out, they they had an OT come out and measure the workplace, and I was able to get a special chair for my back and a special mat that goes on the floor, so if I stand, I don't get sore back and sore hips and those types of things. Stands that you can raise, raise screens and to be at the right level for you, and then and they even funded a sit-stand desk for me. They also helped me out massively with doing vocational assessments, so working out what it is that I want to go into in terms of career, but also then be able to actually match me with jobs. Be able to say, hey, well, there is this job or there's this potential job. My current position is I work for the Hospital Research Foundation, which is a charity that does research into mostly into diseases. They also have a veteran brand, which is the Road Home, which is the brand that I mentioned earlier that I started playing wheelchair basketball through. And so I do relationship management for them, which is an enjoyable job. I enjoy it, and I get to deal with companies, I get to run events, I get to deal with people who are donating. If I had to give some advice to people who are going through the discharge process now, it'd be work out where do I want to be in 10 years' time? Ideally, what job do I want to be doing in 10 years' time? And then work backwards from there. We do a lot of planning in the military. Everything we do our whole life is structured, is planned out. And when you get out of the military, that whole entire structure disappears and it's just you. And so once you restructure that, it's just a matter of putting one step in front of the other and just keeping that momentum going. Advice that I'd give to someone who's medically discharging specifically is, firstly, when you're going through the DVA process, understand what it is that you're claiming for. So actually go to a doctor and get the proper diagnosis that you need, or diagnoses, whatever the plural is for diagnosis, and then get the right diagnosis that you can get, because then you can access the right treatment. And so have a clear mindset when you go through the DVA process of what it is you're claiming for and what it is that you need to be able to demonstrate to be able to get that claim across the line. It's just an administration process. There's no one there that hates you. It's your job just to demonstrate, hey, here's the list of things that I need to prove to be able to get my back claim across the line. Here's my evidence. And you just match the two up and and then you're through. The second thing I'd say is along the DVA lines is use the online services because they're really simple to use. I've done heaps of claims myself on the online services. They're really simple to do. It's just a matter of uploading documentation. That's it. And then away it goes. In terms of getting back into life, and if you're getting medically discharged, it's the same thing. Is your life has to have purpose. If you don't have purpose, then you're going to go nowhere. You're just going to go backwards. And so you need to be able to understand, once you discharge from the military, one day you're going to be in the, whether it's the Army, Navy, Air Force, doesn't matter. One day you're going to be in uniform, the next day you're not. You're going to be a civilian. But you're going to be a civilian with physical limitations on your body that you couldn't do previously. So all it is you need to be able to restructure the purpose that is in your life and find something that you want to achieve. Set yourself some goals and find an actual purpose in your life. You know, for me now, my purpose is that I just want to help people. But if you want to get out of bed, you don't want to be trapped, you don't want to be stuck in this cycle, the only person that can change that is you. You have to get out there and put one foot in front of the other, start building that momentum, set yourself some goals and actually get on the pathway. And it's not easy. It's not an easy process. It takes years, it takes time. I still struggle all the time. I struggle with depression, I struggle with anxiety, I struggle with PDS, I struggle with my physical limitations every day. But it's being able to understand that there's a greater purpose to my life.